Hi, folks. This is Abel James, and thanks so much for joining us on Fat Burning Man, where we talk about real food and real results. Today's episode of the show is with Dr. Stephen Masley, and he's the author of the 30-Day Heart Tune-Up. It's packed with energy. He is absolutely hilarious and full of great information, so I hope you dig this show. In the meantime, I have one quick thing for you to do this week, if you don't mind. And that's just to tell a friend or a family member or maybe a coworker about this show if they don't know about it yet, if you think it would be of value to them. So one of the coolest things that's happened over the course of the past few weeks and few months since this show has really gained a lot of steam is no matter where I go, especially in America, whether it's Florida or here in Austin or out in California, at restaurants and farmers markets and even supermarkets and grocery stores and other places on the street, people are coming up to me being like, "Are you Abel? I listen to your show all the time," just because they hear my voice or they might see the video version. And I'm like, "How did you hear about this?" And they're like, usually it's my coworker or a dude at my CrossFit gym or my aunt or my sister or whatever. It's almost always word of mouth. So if there's anyone that you can think of who this might help, then please take a moment and just send them to fatburningman.com or straight to the podcast. Just tell them to type in Fat Burning Man on iTunes and take a listen, because I really want to help change as many lives as we possibly can with real food, cutting edge technology, as well as real science. And so I appreciate all the help that we can get in that regard. So thank you so much for doing that. And let's get on to the show with Dr. Stephen Masley. It's, like I said, it's a really fun one. We're going to talk about how you can increase your brain speed by 30%, why this one pesky little biomarker is more important than cholesterol, the secret to treating erectile dysfunction without drugs, and what it's like to feel awesome. All right, let's go hang out with the doc. All right, folks, today we're here with Dr. Stephen Masley, who is, among many things, a physician, nutritionist, author, and fellow with the American Heart Association. His passion is empowering people to achieve optimal health through comprehensive medical assessments and lifestyle changes. He's also the author, you can hold it up if you want, Doc, author of the 30-Day Heart Tune-Up, which is an excellent book for people who are confused about a really, really important issue. How's it going, Dr. Stephen?
It's going great. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Awesome. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this because actually the heart and how I treated it or was treated by my doctor originally was kind of how I got into all of this mess originally. And they gave me a lot of the wrong advice. So I would love
There's a lot of myths and bad information out there.
Oh my gosh, there's so much. But your book is excellent. I've only read the uncorrected proof without page numbers, so it gets very confusing, but I can tell you that it is great. So, and we're going to save some time. I told Dr. Stephen before the show that I would love to leave an opportunity for him to rant about something that he's not able to say on mainstream TV, because for your book launch, you're going everywhere. Like, what are some of the places where people are going to be able to see you on TV in the next few months?
Well, fantastic has been our whole mastermind group, but we're looking at programs with CBS, a satellite tour, so it should be in at least 20 cities across the U.S.
Wow.
During the first week of the launch. So that'll be incredible.
So what are you most excited about when it comes to spreading this message? Because like you said, there are so many different myths out there. What gets you really psyched up?
Well, probably the biggest thanks I've ever gotten is when someone follows the program. They'll say, here's what they say to me. They'll say, "Wow, I forgot how great I could feel.
Yeah.
I feel terrific. I had no idea. I'd just forgotten what it was like to feel awesome." And I'm just, that's so, for as hard as I worked, that is so gratifying to get that message from people.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference to hear that. And that's what psychs me up, because too often what we do today to help people prevent and reverse heart disease, we make them feel terrible.
Right.
We put them on drugs, or, sometimes we even do procedures to them that can be on occasion harmful. So to turn someone's life around, tune up their heart, energy, waistline, and their sex life.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. It makes it all worthwhile, all the work worthwhile.
That's pretty awesome. So why don't we talk a little bit about how the issue of the heart is such a big one, because I think it's easy for people who are young or otherwise relatively healthy to kind of ignore this one, because I don't remember what the statistic is, but in a large amount of cases, people die before they realize that their heart is a problem. Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, number one cause of death for men and women is heart disease. And it's disabling, it's crippling, it kills people. It used to be in their 60s and 70s, but it's getting younger and younger and younger. So we're seeing rarely 30-year-olds, but frequently 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
And the first symptom for almost a quarter of people is death. You've never heard, they didn't know they had it. They're just gone. I mean, it's tragic. So, but as we age, 30s, 40s, 50s, it's much more common. But here's what people don't realize. If you impact the circulation so your arteries constrict, you feel sluggish. Mm-hmm. So this program, as I say, ends up your heart and your energy, waistline, and sex life. If your circulation's down, you feel it. You're dragging. It's like pulling an anchor all day. So improving your circulation does so much for your quality of life, whether you're worried about heart disease or not. It's incredible.
So if you ask most people, how do you improve your circulation? They would say drugs. What would you say?
I would say the foods you choose have a huge impact. I mean, cholesterol, I think we way overrated the importance of what your cholesterol is, mm-hmm. but your foods impact your arteries. This is fascinating. When people eat a low nutrient, bad meal, their arteries constrict by 20% within 20 minutes, wow. And it takes 6 to 8 hours to come back. They're stuck in their chair, tired, dragging. They feel terrible.
Yeah.
And many people eat like that all day long. So they never feel vibrant, good circulation, energetic. They've lost it. So it makes a huge choice in how our circulation feels. And for sexual function, for guys, if you don't have good circulation, there's not much function. And it doesn't work. And for women, it's really important too, because it has to do with, women's function and arousal capacity as well. So it really makes a difference for everybody to have great circulation.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because that's an interesting one. And we can keep this a mostly PG rated show, but I think it's important to highlight the whole issue of erectile dysfunction is one that has obviously increased in popularity, I guess I can say, over the past few years. I mean, just turn on the TV during.
Well, they're making a fortune.
Yeah,
charging $8 to $10 a pill, whereas you could get some of that effect by just adding. We have a whole chapter in the 30-day heart tune-up on how to enhance your sexual function.
Yeah,
and if there's foods in there that are arginine rich and amino acid that improve nitric oxide. That's what these Viagra, Cialis drugs act on.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to use drugs that can have side effect, you could use foods that have a similar benefit and be healthier at the same time.
And also, it's kind of the canary in the coal mine, isn't it? Because if your equipment isn't working anymore, it's a symptom of something much deeper than that.
Well, the number one cause for men with erectile dysfunction is cardiovascular disease, mm-hmm. meaning they're on the verge of death, heart attack or stroke. So if that happens to a guy, it's not like go out and get a friend's Viagra. Mm-hmm. That's like, whoa, most of the time, that's a major health issue that is addressed. Now, I feel blessed because I've had patients who had erectile dysfunction. They followed my program. Not only did their erectile function come back, their plaque shrunk. They opened their arteries. They restored their life. So, I thank you for bringing that up. That's such an important point for men.
Yeah.
Those little pills are not the answer. Yes, they'll help the symptom, but it doesn't really fix the problem.
They're not going to save you from a heart attack, which is kind of an issue.
Yeah, and which is a sign. If you have that issue, that is clearly a sign that you're at risk, major risk.
Okay, so say someone has that sign right now, and they're hypothetically listening to this show. What would you tell them next? What's their next action step?
add the 5 categories of food we're promoting. There's 5 special foods that'll enhance your circulation. And the second key would be to measure your fitness. It's not about how many minutes you spend, it's about how fit you are. And the fitter you are, the healthier your arteries and circulation are going to be. So add 5 foods, optimize your fitness. We try to give them all the tools to do that, which we can talk about in some more detail.
Yeah.
But I think those are the keys to turning this around.
What are those foods that you mentioned?
Well, I like, number 1 is fiber. Fiber has nearly miraculous properties. We get fiber from, plant roughage, vegetables, fruits, beans, nuts. Those are great sources, and we've used them for 85,000 years. It's been a big part of our diet, along with lean protein. But,
Sure.
those are things we've always gathered and eaten as we went. I think grains came a lot later along in life, but you can get fiber without the grain product. Now, it improves cholesterol, it improves blood sugar levels, it makes you feel satisfied, full, so it can help with weight control. Number 2 is lean, not mean protein. So I'm looking at like free range, wild, lean protein, not
stuff.
hormone and pesticide enriched. I mean, if you want to get me going on something, it's that, all these commercial protein people are buying, like hot dogs and hamburgers. And I mean, are you kidding? Get some real protein. Well, right? I mean,
right. I totally agree with you.
Free range, not hormone and pesticide enriched. How hard is that to figure out? But I think that's really important.
It is, absolutely.
You could call it clean protein.
Yeah.
But I do like lean, clean protein.
Yeah.
And when in reality, if we think back for 85,000 years, it was all lean and clean. It's just the last 50 years we've really adulterated the stuff.
Yeah, I think that's true. And some people, especially the beginners to this whole lifestyle, might get confused about the lean piece, which is partially, it's just a communication issue, right? Because animals raised in a wild way, in the natural way, were leaner than the animals that were getting basically grains shoved down their throats for that fine marbling. But it doesn't necessarily mean going and getting a grain-fed steak and getting the leanest cut you can. That's something quite different.
But that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because if someone's going to go buy regular, I think it's extra important. If you're just going to a restaurant and you're ordering out and you want to get, a piece of meat, I think the sirloin is the leanest cut and it's the best choice, because the chemicals and the hormones are in the fat.
Yeah.
So instead of the prime rib and ribeye, at least please get the sirloin.
Yeah.
Or at least the New York strip tenderloin. That would be somewhat leaner.
Yeah.
Those are better choices than the fattier cuts if you're not choosing what we would recommend, wild, free-range, grass-fed.
Yeah, and that gets really, really complicated. Actually, I think I mentioned this on another show, but Sally Fallon wrote an article about Rob Wolf's book and tore it to pieces because he was recommending lean meats. But what he actually, because I know Rob and I've had him on the show as well, what he actually means is what we're talking about, right? Like if you're going for a wild animal, which is what you should be eating if you're eating meat, you want to go for the lean wild animal. But I would argue that the fattiest cut you can, because that's not just where the toxins are, it's where the good stuff is too. That's where the omegas and a lot of the richest minerals that you can get from an animal are housed in the fatty cuts of meat, the off cuts of meat, the kidneys, the heart, the liver, and other things like that. But if you're going to eat at a restaurant, like you said, if you're going to eat crappy meat anyway, then absolutely stay away from the fat, because it's just about the worst thing you can eat. It gets very complicated.
So so we had fiber, lean, not mean protein.
Yeah.
And then healthy fat. I really want people to add and enjoy healthy fat. So seafood, olive oil, nuts, avocados, and my 5 favorite nuts, hope our listeners like them, are from my perspective, are almonds, pecans, pistachio, walnuts, and hazelnuts. All 5 of those have actually been shown in clinical studies for the heart, really to benefit our profiles and heart health and decrease strokes, heart attacks. So those are the 5 nuts I push the most.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about like overdoing it with nuts though? Is there a limit? Is there a cutoff where you get that benefit and then it starts to go downhill?
Well, there's a calorie cutoff point.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about the whole can.
Yeah.
So I'm talking usually for a typical person, I'm going to say 1 or 2, a handful like this, not that handful, it could be huge. We're looking at this handful and you get 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So if you're bigger, you got a bigger fist, you get a bigger handful. That's about an ounce on average per handful. That's a nice serving.
Yeah. Now you didn't say, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say you didn't mention macadamia nuts. Was there a reason for that?
Okay, so now as writing this, heart book, an average healthy person, I think coconut and macadamia nuts are totally healthy. They're a great source. Let's say you've got heart disease and your doctor's treating your cholesterol. Now there's this area, this gray zone for those folks who are like cholesterol therapy, have known heart disease. When you add, coconut, your cholesterol goes up. I'm not actually convinced that's bad.
Right.
Because your HDL, your healthy cholesterol goes up at the same time. But we've never looked at clinical outcomes for those nuts. Okay. And it's definitely a gray area controversy. So looking at you, fit, trim, healthy person, enjoy the macadamias and coconut.
Oh,
right?
I do.
But when I'm looking at someone who's got heart disease and they're being treated, and if I put them on more macadamia and coconuts, it's going to raise those levels.
Okay.
I don't know what that outcome is. I know the other 5 nuts are great and they're going to improve their health. I don't have any issues, no worries. They're awesome.
Very cool.
When it comes to, but for that person, I've got that gray zone, that area of controversy. And for someone at risk, I'm going to, as a physician, nutritionist, I'm going to be on the conservative side.
Okay. I really appreciate that clarification. That's important. Now, you were on number 3. What's number 4?
Beneficial beverages.
Okay.
Hydration. So first is pure water. We need to hydrate. Cheers. And it should be out of glass. We should be trying to avoid drinking out of plastic.
Yep.
Plastic has compounds in it that phthalates, it's a fancy chemical word for like estrogen. Not really something, and it's not really good for men or women.
Yeah.
So, and then so pure water, like at home, reverse osmosis. I'd love it if everybody had a reverse osmosis system for cooking and drinking, and then drink out of glass as much as we can. Certainly don't cook with plastic, off topic.
Yeah.
I love cocoa. Chocolate is on the foods to have every day, and drinking cocoa.
You're going to make a lot of friends here.
Well, it's good. It's so good for our heart.
Yeah.
Actually, if you eat cocoa unsweetened, it lowers your blood pressure. It's full of magnesium. It's incredible for your brain. So it's good for your heart, your brain. It tastes good. I mean, yum. And then, and then green tea. I enjoy a couple cups of coffee a day.
Yeah.
I admit it. Green tea's better for you. So if you like both, green tea has more cardiac heart benefit, and green tea has more benefit for help with weight loss too. Those pigments in the green tea, those catechins, are really great. So green teas would be the best, but I'm certainly okay with 1 or 2 cups of coffee a day.
Yeah.
And then I don't like juice. I don't recommend juice.
Yeah.
Just turns it into sugar. I do like people to eat a couple servings of fruit a day, and ideally it would be in a smoothie, a protein smoothie that we have. So you put in protein powder. I like almond milk. You might use coconut milk. So I love almond milk, and then with that, I'll put in a cup of berries, frozen berries. Push, blend, 2 seconds. Incredible. I've got my favorite breakfast.
Now, I just, this is my last interview on a day just packed with interviews. And my last one was all about how to improve your energy naturally. And it's really easy to be high energy talking to you because you're just off the wall. And I love it. It's amazing. But I think a lot of people, the heart, like I said before, it's not really a sexy topic. It's not something that gets people all excited because it's more of like, You need to prevent a problem as opposed to, get something that's
Yes.
exciting. But I think what you're demonstrating is someone who's in great health. And what happens when your heart is working well is you have this enormous amount of energy that other people don't really have. And, we've hung out in person and I've seen it in real time, and it's just so cool. Can you talk about some of the, I guess, underground benefits of having a healthy heart?
Well, the first is it transforms into increased circulation.
Mm-hmm.
So you have more energy. You have better sexual performance. Not such a bad thing to have.
Yeah.
And then you're mentally sharper. I actually recently did a study. In our clinic, we do health evaluations. We measure how do you age. We looked at 700 people and brain speed, brain performance. The best predictor of increasing brain speed, so you're sharper, quicker, think faster, is plaque in circulation.
Wow.
So if you increase your circulation, you improve brain performance. We actually have shown in published studies that if we can get people to follow this program, add the 5 food groups, we've covered 4 of them, get fit, they improve their executive brain performance by 25 to 30%.
Wow.
I mean, that's terrific.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
You feel awesome.
Yeah. 25 to 30%. How did you measure that?
We do cognitive testing where we measure brain speed. It's a 30-minute computerized test.
Yeah.
I've been using this for over 10 years in my practice. I'm kind of a standard of age management medicine. And we look at brain speed and brain performance.
Wow.
And what's pretty cool about that is you can actually see improvement.
Yeah.
So typically the first person I see, so they might be normal,
Yeah.
and you can see a pattern that says, you know what? I bet you could be better.
Right.
Would you like to be sharper? You can get more work done in less time. And they're like, yeah. So that's what we're looking at trying to offer is improving, so better circulation to me means you're not going to have a heart attack and stroke. That's actually pretty good.
That's pretty good.
You have better sexual function. You have more energy. You're more jazzed. Your brain's faster. I mean, to me, it's all great.
Yeah. And 25, I'm a brain geek anyway, so that's really powerful, but I hadn't heard that, or at least I hadn't internalized that 25 to 30%. That's the difference between a C or a C minus and an A plus, right? That is significant stuff.
On a 12-hour workday, it's the difference between a 10-hour workday and a 12-hour workday, and you got more done.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Okay, so we do have time for a couple more questions, but I'd love to give you that opportunity that I was talking about before. Because
how about I got a 5th food group.
Yeah. Oh, go for it.
Fabulous flavors.
Fabulous flavor.
Food has to taste great. People aren't going to eat cardboard.
Yeah.
So it's got to be delicious. But here's what's amazing. You know why food tastes good? Because we're biochemically attracted to it.
Yeah.
And the keys are spices and herbs. So Italian herbs, curry spices, hot chili spices, they lower inflammation, they slow aging, they improve circulation, they prevent your brain from aging. They're incredible. And chocolate, you have to have some dark, it has to be dark. We're not talking milk chocolate, that's candy, right?
Yep.
So dark chocolate, 70% every day. Don't miss it. So more spice, more herb, more chocolate. Your food should taste fantastic, fabulous. And if you do that, you're going to age more slowly. So those are the 5 age, foods. I think it's incredibly important, this new category.
That's awesome. So just to clarify, folks of you who are out there listening or watching, you have a doctor telling you to eat more chocolate. I think that's pretty cool. This is this is something that I'm definitely going to take home myself. So you mentioned spices. What are the for people who are afraid of cooking or just getting started with spices? What are like the top 3 to 5 spices that you always have in your kitchen cabinet?
So I always have some blend of Italian herbs.
Okay.
Oregano. I'll broaden it a little bit. There's strict ones for fine herbs and Italian herbs and herbs de Provence, but let's kind of broaden it just to make it simple. If you usually buy Italian herbs in a jar, they're going to have oregano, they could have rosemary, thyme, basil, this blend of Mediterranean herbs. and they make food taste incredible because we're biochemically attracted. That's why marinara sauce smells so wonderful simmering in the kitchen, because you have that biochemical affinity to your brain for it.
Yeah.
So that's like everything could use more fine herbs, Italian herbs. Herbs de Provence means we put a little lavender in them, so it's all so something in fine herbs, French herbs, Italian herbs. We should be using, like, if you use them dried, and they're great dried, everybody should get a teaspoon a day. So you're just sprinkling little bits here on when we cook food. Chili spice, we don't use, it gives you that, hot enchiloso bit going. It really lowers inflammation, and they're anti-inflammatory. So, they're great for us, and we need a little. So if you don't tolerate a lot, you could use paprika. It's kind of a mild form, but I love to put a little, cayenne in there, just a dash. I'm even learning to put a tiny bit in dessert, as crazy as that sounds.
Oh, it's awesome.
So when
chili
I have
chocolate,
dessert,
you kidding me? That's the
no,
best.
isn't it? It's just great. So yeah, we want to add some, just even when I make any dessert with chocolate or something like that, it's not like it'd be less than an eighth of a, teaspoon.
Sure.
It's just a dash to heighten those brain receptors that come from the taste buds in our tongue.
Yeah.
So more flavor.
Awesome.
Curry spices are probably the most powerful ones on the planet. I love turmeric, curcumin, cardamom, cumin, but you can just buy curry spice and get used. Now, a lot of people, it's overwhelming. They're not used to that.
Yeah, it is different. Yeah.
Pardon?
It is different. Yeah, for a lot of people just getting started, you can overdo it pretty easily at the beginning.
Do a quarter dose, quarter of what the recipe is, but they're so incredible for our health.
Yeah.
So those are, and then, you can even sprinkle on, like in Oaxaca, little cocoa powder on food. It's great.
I'm hearing a theme here.
Flavor, fabulous flavor. When your food tastes fabulous, you're more likely to eat it and enjoy it. It's more fun to cook.
Yeah.
People who don't cook, it's because it never, it's not fun. Doesn't have much flavor.
It's way more fun when you can just like add in some chilies, or you can put some chocolate on everything, or throw some bacon in there every once in a while. That makes cooking a lot easier and a lot more fun, I can tell you.
It does. And it's good for us.
Yeah. So for those of us out there who are worried about our hearts, would you mind talking a little bit about fat for a normal person, or maybe someone who's kind of in that gray area? What should they be thinking about when it comes to saturated fat? Because I know a lot of people, they go into their doctor says, keep saturated fat as low as possible, keep fat as low as possible, which makes, the type of diet that we both follow kind of difficult to do. So would you mind commenting on that a bit?
Okay, well, let's just be clear. There's a big difference in saturated fat. They are not, to put them all in the same category, it makes no sense. I'm sure you agree.
Yeah.
First, we have the sources like macadamia nuts and coconut that I think have less inflammation than some of the other, especially commercial animal saturated fat. So if you're not talking about free range wild, the saturated animal fat from dairy and meat are going to be inflammatory. They're going to make you more likely to clot and be sticky. So if you're a traditional doctor, which I'm not, I'm glad to say, then, you might just say, avoid all saturated fat, because you assume people are eating, can I say it? Crap. Junk. So we don't want them eating junk.
Yeah.
So it's what the question you're asking varies so much. Are you eating clean, wild protein where it's less important? Are you eating coconut and macadamia where it's less important? But again, if you go back to now, saturated fat doesn't just change cholesterol profile, which is controversial what that means. It does have the potential to increase clotting and stickiness.
Okay.
So if someone has known cardiovascular disease, I am going to lower their saturated fat, because I'm not so worried about their cholesterol as I'm worried about the thickness of the viscosity of their blood, the thickness of their blood.
Okay. That makes
sense.
So
that's more reason to use olive oil or other fats for someone with known disease that someone healthy like you wouldn't have to worry about.
Okay. Or someone who's healthy now anyway, because I did have high blood pressure, and my doctor was all sorts of worried about me when I was in my early 20s because I do have a history of some of this
Okay.
stuff.
But let's clarify. High blood pressure means your arteries were sick and growing plaque.
Mm-hmm.
It did not mean you had a disease that needed a drug.
Right.
It meant you had a lifestyle that didn't match your genetic needs.
Yeah. So what do we do about all of this? Why are because I'm very guilty of vilifying that that cartoon of the normal doctor in America right now. What do we do to make doctors more like you? Because you're awesome.
Well, the good news is I've spoken to over 20,000 physicians in the last 10 years.
Wow.
I'm out on a mission, not just for people, but physicians. I speak at about 10 to 20 medical meetings per year for dentists, for doctors, on doing what we're talking about now, changing lifestyles instead of putting people on drugs that make them feel worse.
I love it.
So that's critical. But I think, I've got in the 30-day heart tune-up in here. In the beginning of the book, we talk about how do you communicate with your doctor? How do you schedule an appointment? Bring this book to your doctor's appointment. They might know me. I mean, here's the amazing thing. Someone could go to their doctor, and there's a decent chance that physician can say, oh, I know Dr. Masley. I've heard him speak.
Yeah.
So it may not be that hard to convince them what you're doing makes sense first.
Yeah.
But then it's also looking at asking them, I want to eat well. I want to, get fit. Support me. It's a partnership. And I just accept that most doctors really don't have the time.
Yeah.
They're seeing 30 to 40 people a day. They would love to do what I get to do with my patients. They don't have the time.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't care. They're just at 30 to 40 people a day, they can't do it.
Right. That makes sense. So what would you say to someone like that who has a doctor who doesn't have time? Would you just say that, bring in a book like this or bring in like a resource that they can follow that does have good advice in it and just say, I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to plan to follow this.
Yes.
And you're saying that a lot of
here, we've got a list of the labs they should add.
Yeah.
And right now, I've got a free gift they can go to the website and get that gives them a list of labs that I want. It's called How to Get the Labs from Your Doctor They May Not Otherwise Order.
That's cool.
How do you get that? And then how do you have that conversation? And part of it is to go in and say, I'm following this. I'd like to order these labs.
Right.
Can you order them for me? Because I want to follow this program to get fit and eat better.
Yeah.
And I think if that's your approach, your doctor's going to think, quick, easy, yes, I'm in.
Yeah.
Order the labs, shows you how to get the results, and we're set. So that would actually be a very healthy way to have that, useful way to have that conversation.
That's pretty cool. I wish I'd had something like that or had the insight to do something like that. A few years ago, I feel like I had to reinvent the wheel, but it's so encouraging to see. So Dr. Stephen and I were just at a conference for a lot of health folks who kind of spread the same message that we spread. And it is so encouraging to see that our group is growing, the people who are fighting the good fight and going after the truth as opposed to all of that nonsense. I think that pendulum is starting to swing. Yeah,
absolutely. It is changing. There is this movement amongst physicians, nutritionists, and people alike. I think there's becoming a common cause, and I think we're getting out of the hands of the pharmaceutical industry that we're not dependent on them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad we have some of these drugs to help people when they need them.
Yeah.
But the key is we shouldn't need them most of the time.
Yeah. So can I ask you just kind of a weird hypothetical question?
Yes.
If someone walks into a doctor, what should happen next, and how should they leave that office, and what should they leave with? Because you're saying drugs shouldn't really be that much of a part of it, which
they should walk in with goals. What are my goals that I want to achieve to optimize my health for decades to come?
Yeah.
What do I need to do to achieve this? How are we going to have a partnership to assure I'm achieving my goals? And I'd prefer to have all my parameters normal without needing a drug. It may not be possible, but I would say Most of the time it is. We can prevent 90% of heart disease today. But here's the tragedy. We spend 90% of our resources doing procedures and putting people in the hospital and torturing them when we could be preventing it.
Yeah.
It's tragic. Our current healthcare system is out of control.
Wow. So why is heart disease so bad right now? I know that's a very loaded question.
We wait for someone to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Dangerous, worrisome signs. And then it's a full court mad press procedures that, I could briefly share a story. My father-in-law, his name was Chuck, wonderful guy. I grew up, my parents got divorced when I was young. My mom started dating this guy. He was terrific. I was thrilled they got married. But right after he retired, he had this chest discomfort. His doctor had always said, "Oh, you're fine. You don't need to do anything." But obviously he wasn't fine. They took him to the hospital. They did a procedure. They cathed him. They put a cath in, looked at his heart, and they destroyed his brain with clot. He was blind. It was awful. Couldn't see, couldn't get dressed, couldn't eat. He suffered for 7 years, and I watched him. And at the very end, he's like nearly in a coma, and I come out to see him to say goodbye. And he hadn't sat up to talk to anyone, but he sat up and he said, "Stephen, don't let what happened to me happen to others."
Wow.
And it was just, God, painful.
Yeah.
But it was so powerful to me that that's it. That's enough. We have to stop this. So it's insane how we wait to the last minute for someone to get in trouble. We do all these procedures to them that can be very harmful.
Yeah.
When we could prevent this, if we use this program, we could prevent it 90% of the time. And if not for you, then maybe for a loved one.
Sure.
So I think it's a critical, important message. I'm totally frustrated with how we manage heart disease nationally today. We diagnose your cholesterol, blood pressure. We don't give you the tools. We put you on drugs. They make you feel worse. It slows your demise, and we wait for you to need a procedure. What kind of system is that?
Oh, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
But the good news is we can prevent it, and we can make you feel fantastic by following it at the same time.
And now, one of the things that you talk about, I've talked about this on the show before, but I think it's worth going over, especially with you, is inflammation, and that it's not necessarily cholesterol that people need to be really worried about. There are actually other things that you can measure, like C-reactive protein, that are really useful in terms of getting after taking your health into your own hands and understanding what's going on within your own body. So can you talk about what people can do to measure that?
Well, yeah, so it's called and you have to do a high sensitivity or a cardio C-reactive protein, HS, high sensitivity -CRP. It's on that list of like 10 blood tests I would suggest you get from your doctor. That's probably one of the most important, because if you're inflamed, you have what I call accelerated aging.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Right.
It doesn't sound good, does it?
It doesn't sound good.
No. So if you're inflamed, your arteries inflamed and they grow plaque. If your brain's inflamed, it'll shrink and you'll get Alzheimer's. If your arteries inflamed, you get arthritis. There's nothing. If you're inflamed, your DNA you'll just burn up more quickly.
Yeah.
So, but there's a ton we can do. Healthy fat. The fitter you are, don't eat sugar and junk. When you give up sugar and refined carbs like flour, and you add more healthy fat, your inflammation numbers come down beautifully.
Yeah.
Adding fish oil can do really well for lowering inflammation. And being fit lowers inflammation. And of interest, if your body weight's up, those fat cells want to grow. They want to be a bigger part of you. So they produce cytokines which make you inflamed. So losing weight lowers inflammation. It's all part of accelerated aging. And I think inflammation is one of the most important parts of it.
Yeah. And you talk about, you've brought this up a few times, being fit or getting fit. What do you do to make sure that you are fit?
Well, I get up, I have my heart shake each morning. I go to the gym. I usually get, typically 30 to 40 minutes of aerobic activity. But I want to know what is my maximum heart rate, and I'm pushing it towards like 70 to 80% of that. And a couple days, I love doing intervals. I imagine, intervals is where you go really hard, really easy, really hard, really, these 5-6 cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to do strength training. We got to build muscle mass. And then, I think the health benefits of stretching are less than the strength training aerobic, but it helps prevent injury. So a short 2-minute stretch at the end. So
yeah.
6 days a week, I'm doing aerobic.
Wow.
I do strength training. At least I probably do it 5 days a week, but I alternate. One day is trunk, one day's legs, one
Sure.
day's arms. So I don't recommend you do your biceps every day.
Yeah.
You give it a day off. So every other day strength training would be optimal, at least twice a week. If you don't do strength training once a week, you lose muscle mass.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting old quickly. That's a shame. But people need to be aerobically fit.
Yeah.
What that means is your ability to burn oxygen. If you can burn more oxygen because you're aerobically fit, you age more slowly. It's not just your heart. For the brain, when we talked about, improving cognitive performance, getting a good aerobic workout, that was the number one predictor of not losing brain speed.
Wow. That's awesome.
So really, be fit, add my 5 healthy foods. Those are critical components.
So all of this, this weight training, resistance exercise, and aerobic training and intervals, this only applies to men, right?
No. I mean, yes, women, they benefit so much from, this.
Yeah.
And I think too, in our society today, women, I think they benefit more from strength training than men do.
Yeah.
Because just from our culture, which we don't have to get totally into that, but
sure.
I think our culture has gotten these women, to be pristine on the pedestal. No, get out there and sweat. Lift some weight. For 85,000 years, men and women have been physically active.
Yeah.
It's just essential to our well-being.
Yeah. So what would you say when that stereotypical woman walks into your office who says, I would never touch weights?
Well, I might get her to do elastic bands.
Mm-hmm.
I might get her to go to yoga, and you could get some strength training from a yoga class.
Yeah.
But I'll actually, we actually measure. We don't measure weight. Total weight is like, who cares?
Yeah. Good for you.
Who in their right mind would measure all their debt and all their savings and put them together as one matter? It doesn't mean right.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be more lean. So we should be. I measure fat mass and lean mass separately.
Yeah.
You get 2 numbers. Here's your fat weight. Here's your lean weight. What percent of you is body fat? I don't want none. I'm not trying to make, I actually don't believe in being like a gymnast. I think there's actually some lowers the immune system, and I want women to be shapely, but if you have to have muscle mass, or if nothing else, you can't control your weight very well without decent muscle mass.
Yeah. I'm glad that you said that, because I think it's tempting to hear some of this advice as applying to only, some people and not others, but it really does apply to just about everyone. And you get tremendous benefit from doing what you're saying.
Every age, each gender, tremendous.
Yeah. Awesome. So we have a little bit of time left. Do you have, you've made the rounds and you're making more rounds of going on all these different shows and stuff like that. And you're a great speaker, but is there anything that you would love to just rant on for a bit?
I'm just so tired of people going to their doctor and just listen, and they're passive about it.
Yeah.
To go in and find out what's wrong with you. Forget that. Go in with key goals. What do you want from your life? What are your dreams? What are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? What do you dream about?
Yeah.
And ask your doctor to help you achieve them.
That's
Get
correct.
over this. Do I have too often it's like, oh, you're fine, get out of here. As in, you don't have a heart attack. You're not having a heart attack. You don't have cancer. Go. I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
Forget that. We got to go, demand okay, I got these goals. How can you help me achieve them? Or if nothing else, use a program like the 30-Day Heart Tune-Up So you can know what to ask. I need these tests done. Just help me do it. I got the foods. I've got the stress management. That's critical. The other thing that's just driving me nuts is all these reports. They've got these studies now showing that terrible multivitamins have had little benefit. Mm-hmm. But they're looking at a Centrum that is poorly designed, has more bad ingredients than good. Mm-hmm. And of course, and they still, even with that, it showed a decreased cancer risk.
Wow.
Yes, it's critical. People need to meet their nutrient needs, and 85% of Americans aren't getting it. Mm-hmm. So yes, I really believe strongly. I think there's incredible evidence that there's too much confusion, and the media really overdoes, some of these bad reports. But people need to meet their nutrient needs. That means take a good multivitamin, get your fiber, add lean protein, there's critical nutrients that are essential that most people are deficient in. Magnesium, vitamin D, fish oil, vitamin K, those are just essential. And we've got to do a better job, because I'm tired of people being sick, tired, mentally sluggish, mm-hmm. because they're nutrient deficient. And we got to do a much better job of helping people meet their nutrient needs.
Boom. I love it. All right. So we're out of time, but Dr. Stephen Masley, why don't you tell folks where they can find you and a little bit about your book?
All right. So easiest is at my website, hearttuneup.com, hearttuneup.com. I've got a free gift up right now if they want to get that list of that test to get from their doctors. A list of the key 6 nutrients that are great for your heart, now to get them. Plus, I did a cooking demo so they can join me in my kitchen, and I'll show them how to make one of my favorite dishes. They go to hearttuneup.com/partners, partners with an S, join me as a partner. Then they can get that free gift from me. I'd love that. I'm giving out gifts. So, but the book is awesome. And as a bonus, in addition to how to, tune up your heart, energy, waistline, and sex life, it's got 2 big bonuses: how to enhance your sexual performance. Not so bad to know.
Not and bad at all.
My favorite 50 recipes are in here that are, terrific for your health. So there we go.
Awesome.
Join the website. Come get a gift. And I wish you the best of health.
Awesome. Dr. Steve, I really appreciate your energy. You're a blast. And I wish that every doctor out there were just like you. So thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to have you on again soon, and take care.
Okay.